Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, traders? What's going on? Welcome back. Happy Taco Tuesday. I can hear myself talking. I don't like it. There we go. If that's what you guys have to listen to every single day, I feel really bad for you guys. So, I'm sorry. But good morning. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. If we would just probably switch up the playlist, I would be here on time, but I spend probably 3 to 5 minutes just jamming out to the intro music before we go live. So, my apologies. Just way too good. But we're going to dive into it here in a moment. Talk about what we have for the day, get you guys prepared, and have an opportunity to talk your top stocks as well. So I'm excited to kick things off with you guys. Excited to see what the market gives us for the day. I'm ready to make it happen, team. Ready to make it happen. Because yesterday wasn't a great day. It was okay. The market was a couple decent setups, but nothing really shook itself loose. So hopefully today is a better day, and we're going to take advantage of everything that we can. All right, but let's go ahead and do a quick little mic check. Looks like we're good to go. Tom, what's up, buddy? Good morning, Mr. Mike, Paxton, Jake, Steve, everybody else over inside the chat. Good morning, and then if you guys are over on YouTube, good morning, and then TikTokers, good morning as well. Calvin, what's up, buddy? What's up, man? All right, so let's not waste any time. Let's dive into it. So we're gonna go SPY and Qs, top down, and get prepped for the day. Identify the best of the best areas that we want to be taking trades off of. But when we take a look at the SPY daily and we take a look at the Qs on the daily, I mean, we got a nice looking breakout formation on the daily. I mean, that's not to say it's definitive that we break to the upside, but the type of consolidation and the type of development that we've seen over the past 3 weeks, starting to look like we could see that breakout formation play on out. Run on up into resistance, drop on off, back up into resistance, another little pullback, putting in that daily higher low, pushing right back up into that level of resistance for the third touch off a higher low. Typically, when you see a stock come back into resistance for the third time, the third touch on a higher low, typically you try and break out, right? You call those ascending triangle breakout formations. Some would call this a cup and handle, like one big cup and a handle. It's just a technical setup. You know, coming back up into resistance for the third time on that higher low, typically there's a higher probability chance that you start to break to the upside. Right, but we're going to pick it apart, guys, and we're going to look at both sides of the market. If we start to see the breakout, where do we get in? Where do we play the SPY long to? Right, but if we see the false breakout, because that's something that could happen as well, to see a false breakout, how would we want to get in to the short side if we start to see a false breakout here on the SPY? So let's pick it apart. And we're not going to do weekly today because really on the weekly, all we have is the weekly gap. And we got that weekly demand zone sitting down below. And the top of the weekly gap is back down at like 575. We're at 591. So we'd have to fall 15 points today before we're even to the top of the gap. I highly doubt we're going to move 15 points today. So I don't really care about weekly demand. I'm not really too concerned about the weekly gap. I want to go right to the daily. And I'm going to find all of my closest, most significant zones of support resistance, and maybe even supply and demand, if we have any supply and demand, that I want to be looking to trade off of. So here's going to be the first daily zone of supply that we can see here on the SPY's daily. Right there on the SPY, right? Because we can see we had this gap down, so there's your drop. There's your base, there's your drop. So that gives us this daily zone of supply. But here's what I want to do is I want to drag the bottom of my zone up to where price has yet to visit that area. So this is supply. From the high into the body of that basing candle, price already came back up, hit about 20% of the supply zone. But I only want to look at the portion of that supply zone where price has yet to go. So I'm just going to drag the bottom of my zone up. And again, that's just going to give me the region where price has yet to go. So that's going to be your daily supply zone. And price is moving back up into that zone right now in pre-market. So we got some supply. Let's look left and let's find our, again, most significant zones and levels of support resistance. And we are going to be probably up in this region right here. I mean, it seems like a pretty large zone, but it's not. It's about 75 cents large. If I can click the buttons, that would be really good. So first area that stands out to me is going to be where we kind of came up here. Was that last week? No, I don't even think it was the week before, but it was like May 16th, May 19th. We came up and just kind of topped out at this level, like 3 days back to back. Came up into this level, hit it, high day, a little bit of a back down, came up, tried to push above that 595. Then we gapped down, hit it as a high a day, dropped on off. So I know there's going to be a little zone up in that region there. So got a couple of hits, nice little gap down, low a day, big bounce off that zone, gap down, low a day, big bounce. We had that gap up, high a day, nice big drop on off. And we can see we got a couple more hits off of it. Came down, hit it, low a day, nice little bounce. Again, high day reject, gap down, low a day, bounce. Nice big push up into that zone. And then we've hit it here a couple of times as well. So that's going to give us a decent zone around 594.05 to 594.75. And I could probably bring the top. No, I can't. Nope. Top of the zone stays the same. Bottom of the zone is right where it's at. And so we got a decent little zone of daily support resistance that's got, quite a few little hits on that zone. And that's resting right above some of that daily supply that we have here. So, I mean, there's going to be some resistance, some supply overhead, but that's going to be the area that we need to break, right? Because we're also looking at the SPY as a possible breakout formation where, again, you're coming back into resistance for the third hit on this higher low. Again, there's a slightly higher probability chance that the SPY starts to break and continue to push to the upside. So we're really identifying where is that key level that we've got to break. And if we start to break that key level, where is the best area to play the retest for the long? But where's the same area that if we come up to and we fail to break it, could we top out and again start to see the SPY roll on over? So that's going to be that zone that we just discussed, right? So again, that pretty key level that we're going to have to get above to confirm this breakout is that 594.06 to 594.73. And again, you got to get through all of that daily supply as well. So if we can start to get through daily supply, that daily zone of resistance, we hold it as support, I'm very confident we continue to see the market push to the upside. We come up and we top out and we fail to break above supply. We fail to break that daily zone of resistance. Again, I think there's going to be a little bit more downside, at least back down into these lows here on the SPY. So got a zone of supply, got our dialed in zone of resistance. Let's go mark up the daily supply zone that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. It's still that same daily supply zone, but I'm just dragging the bottom of my supply zone up to where price has yet to revisit. So that's going to be the remaining part of that daily supply zone that price has not been to yet. So there's going to be your daily supply. We know there's a zone of resistance that lines up right in that daily supply zone. And so that's going to be right around here. My eyes aren't working today. My eyes are just not working. It's taken me a long time to find the zones. No, it's going to be 597.95 to 598.54 is going to be that zone. Actually, no. No, it's not. Again, my eyes aren't working. I'm going to remove that zone. We're going to start fresh. And I'm just looking at that region right there. Up into those highs, but then if I go up a little bit higher, I get that gap down low a day. That's going to be a pretty damn big zone. That's going to be like 598.57 down to like 597.35. Now, we could definitely tighten that zone up. I lose that one hit, but that right there, that's going to be the zone. Yeah, that's it. It's a little bit larger. It is 597.35 to 598.07, but that's the zone. And it sits right there at some of that daily supply as well. We got 2 zones of supply on the SPY daily. We got those 2 zones of significant resistance. Now we got to go find some zones to the downside, right? So the first area that stands out to me is going to be this zone of support down between 588.93 to 589.64. Got a couple of hits here, a little high day reject, low day bounce, low day bounce. Same zone that we had last week on the SPY, and it's the same area that we've been trading off of quite a bit over the past week. Same zone. Still going to be a valid zone for today. And then lastly, and we're just really looking at the last couple of weeks. We got a lot of good data from the last couple of weeks, and we're finding a lot of key areas that are being pretty well respected. So next zone to the downside is going to be... I don't know if I like this zone. I'm going back, way back in the day. I mean, that's going to be like a low zone. But there's going to be another little zone probably between that 590 and 584. But you got this dialed in daily zone. That's down between 584.38 to 585.02. And that's it. So that's what we got here, guys. We have what? We got 4 key zones of daily support resistance. We got that lower zone that we've hit several times back here as resistance, support. A lot of hits as support. Nice couple hits here as resistance. So again, that's a very dialed in zone. Then we have this zone that was created over the past like 3 weeks. Just got a lot of highs a day, getting rejected, come back down, hit it as low a day. Same zone that we identified last week. It's a zone that's been respected pretty well. Then we have our upper zone of resistance that lines right up with some of that daily supply. That's that 594.06 to 594.73. And then your top zone of resistance is up between 597.35 to 598.07. And again, you do have some of that daily supply sitting up around that zone of resistance. So we are good to go on the daily. We are dialed in on the daily. And again, keep in mind the formation that we're starting to see on the SPY. Flat resistance, first hit, second hit, coming up for the third hit of resistance on this daily high or low. There is a slightly higher probability chance that we actually try to break some of these levels to the upside and see the next leg into that $598, $600 level on the SPY. But we'll see. Let's drill this down into a 4-hour, and let's take a look at the 4-hour and see if there's anything that stands out. Yeah, I mean, you got this little drop base rally formation on a 4-hour time frame. So like right here, you got your drop, you got your base, you got your rally. So there's going to be your 4-hour demand candle sitting way back down around like the 586s. But that's a pretty big zone. That's like a $2 wide zone. So I already know we're going to have some 1-hour, some probably 30-minute demand. That's going to be a lot tighter. And at least I already know there's 4-hour demand sitting there. So we know we got 4-hour demand. Any supply to the upside, we don't really have any nearby 4-hour supply. So we're going to go ahead and flip this down into a 1-hour time frame. And again, we're just doing supply-demand analysis on a 1-hour. So what do we see? SPY last night comes up into some of that daily supply, hits some of those unfilled orders, pops out. Where does it go? It comes down to that 589 level of support, hits it in pre-market, starts to bounce. So a lot of those daily zones that we just identified on the daily, right? Started with a naked chart, nothing on the chart. Daily time frame, just identifying those key zones of supply, demand, support, resistance. Look at how well those zones are being respected just since last night. We hit supply, come down to that key level of support. Come down to that key level of support, nice little pop to the upside. So at least we already see these key levels being respected in after-hour session. All right, so 1 hour supply demand. I mean, yeah, there was some demand from yesterday created, so that was really just a hit off some of that demand from yesterday, right? We have the rally, we have the base, we have the rally. Price comes back down, hits some of those unfilled orders, pops out. So this is not fresh demand that's being created. This is simply a hit off that demand from yesterday's session. So we're going to pass on drawing that zone up since it was a hit. So there's nothing realistically that we can do here on a 1 hour. I mean, the only other thing that we could do on a 1 hour is mark up that zone of supply that we were discussing from yesterday, where we had the drop, base, drop last Thursday. So we had supply that overlapped that daily, but we already came up and hit the overlap last night. So you see that tight little red space right there? That's the overlap between those two time frame zones of supply. Price already came up, hit the overlap, and popped out. So that zone's been mitigated, 100% of it. So we got to remove that zone altogether. Anything else on a 1 hour time frame that we can mark up here? Do we have any valid uptrends? Maybe there's a nice valid multi-day uptrend here on the SPY. I mean, kind of. Yeah, we got a nice little uptrend here over the last couple of weeks on the SPY. You can throw that uptrend up here. Other than that, we're pretty much good on the hour. Let's go wrap this up on a 30-minute time frame. Again, I don't see any clear zones of demand to the downside. Any supply on the 30-minute. Yeah, look at that nice little basing candle you have on a 30-minute time frame right there. Nice little drop, base, drop. Price has yet to come back and hit some of those unfilled orders. So we have that little 30-minute zone of supply that lines up with our daily zone of resistance, but we also have that daily supply zone still sitting right there. So you start to really paint a picture of there's going to be a lot of resistance right overhead. So like traders, retail traders, they come in and say, I'm going to buy calls today because this is one big ascending triangle breakout formation. So they want to chase the breakout. They want to get in because they're anticipating it's going to break to the upside. But whenever I do my analysis, I'm like, it's going to be tough to break that level to the upside. We got some of that 30-minute supply sitting there, so we could hit some of those unfilled orders, drop to the downside. We still got some of that daily supply where there's still going to be some of those unfilled orders resting. Price can get drove to the downside. And we got that key daily zone of resistance that we got to break above. So there's a lot of work that we have to do to get that break before we even consider trading the SPY long. We're not chasing the breakout. We're not going to be the guinea pigs trying to take the breakout and hopefully it works. No, we got to wait for this to break out before we actually play it long. And there's a lot of work we got to do. But that's going to be the first plan, guys. If we just break that daily zone of resistance, if we just break through those two supply zones and we mitigate those two supply zones, I will then wait for the retest off that daily zone to see if we hold it as support. And if we see a proper break and retest, I will then and only then look to play the SPY long up towards around 598. So that's going to be trade idea number one. But again, that's a tough level of resistance, and there's a boatload of supply overhead. So if we come up into that level of resistance and we see that, hey, there are still some unfilled orders sitting at those supply zones, and we see price pop to the downside, you best believe I'm looking to, take a short on the SPY off that 594 zone, because we have some multiple time frame supply sitting right at that daily zone of resistance. So that's going to be a good short opportunity for today, is if we cannot break that zone of resistance. If we start to fall out of those supply zones, I will look to take puts on the SPY. All right. And then I would have to say this lower zone is the LITs, the line in the sand for today. This is the make or break. So let's label that our LITs. And so the LITs is the 588.93 to 589.64 zone. So if price comes down into the zone, we hold it as support today. We simply play calls. It's that simple. Price comes below the zone. We hold below the zone as resistance. We simply look to play puts from key zone to key zone. So that's what we have here on the SPY for today. So SPY looks great. I think there's going to be a couple different good setups that present today. It just comes down to being patient, waiting for the market to come to us. But we are ready to rock, and we are ready to roll, guys. That's the SPY. Got a couple game plans built. We got our key zones dialed in. We are all set. And so same thing applies with the Qs, right? Everything that we discussed with the SPY, a lot of it applies with the Qs. As far as we got flat resistance coming up for the third time on this daily high or low. The odds are we try to start to break through that zone of resistance because we do have a nice little breakout formation setting up on the daily. All right, so let's go ahead and find all of our best of the best key zones of support, resistance, supply, and demand. And let's get an idea of what levels we have to break for the Qs to be bullish, for us to want to trade anything long to the upside today. So the first area that's really starting to stand out to me, it's a clear area. It's the area that we've been topping out at for the past couple weeks now here on QQQ. It's going to be, that's a pretty big zone though. It's a pretty big zone. Let's tighten this zone up as much as possible without stripping away how significant the zone is. So let's take that zone, extend it out to the left. Let's tighten this bad boy up and really just get this zone dialed in here. It's still a pretty large zone. I mean, it is what it is, but it's still a little bit of a pretty big zone. I mean, we could probably pull the top down a little bit, and I don't lose that many points. And then the bottom is the bottom because I don't want to drag it below that low where we had that nice pop. So, all right, so this is going to be a nice daily zone between 521.49 to 522.55. That's going to be the level that we have to break and hold above for us to want to play calls on the Qs. So, like, that's the breakout point. That's resistance. That's the level that we're trying to break on this higher low. So that's the area that we're going to have to get above and stay above if we want to play calls. If we're trading below that level, we're looking to play puts. So that's a key level. I already know that's going to be the make or break for today. That's the LITs. So let's go ahead and mark that up as our LITs. Now, what if we do break and hold that zone and we see some action to the upside? Where do we want to get long to? Well, if we go look at the daily, again, we're just doing the same thing. Finding our most significant daily zones of support resistance. And we'll look to go from key zone to key zone. So here it is. This is your next significant level on the Qs. It's up between 525.93 to 526.41. We run up into that level, couple days back to back, get rejected. We come down, hit it as low a day. Nice big push. Low a day bounce, high day rejection, big dump to the downside. High day rejection, low a day bounce, gap up, open, high of day rejection. So, I mean, look at how many hits we've got off that zone. Several hits off the zone, right? But look at the types of moves we've seen off that level as well. It's not just the amount of touches we have. It's how sharp the moves have been. Look at that gap up high a day. So like we gapped up, came up, hit a high a day off that zone, and then just dumped to the downside. Same thing here. We gapped up open, put in a high a day off that zone, and then just dumped hard to the downside. So again, when I'm looking at my zones, it's not how many hits or how many points do we have off the zone. That's something I look for. That's one of the pieces. The more hits, the better. But the second piece, and honestly the most important piece, is how sharp have those moves been off that zone. And so very sharp moves off the zone. So that's going to be a very key area here on the Qs. That's going to be some key resistance to the upside. We've got our line in the sand dialed in. That's that key make or break. Let's go ahead and find some key areas to the downside. So like if we don't break through that Litz, if we get rejected, we start to roll on over, we start to drop on off hard, where are we going? That's the $1 million question. Where are we going? I would say a very, very close level is going to be back down here between, and it's really this zone that's just been created over the past couple of weeks of price action. We can see high day rejection, low a day bounce, low a day bounce, high day rejection, low a day bounce. Same thing yesterday. Came down pretty much to that zone, low a day. Nice bounce. That's going to be 516.71 to 517.68. That's going to be a pretty nice zone here on the Qs. Yeah, we got a lot of hits off that zone. I mean, it could be a little bit lower. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a zone just a little bit lower, chilling down here. And so we can go ahead and mark that one up as well, just in case. Gives us our fourth and final zone for today. That's down between 514.32 to 514.96. So we got all of our most significant daily zones of support resistance. Now, do I have any nearby supply and demand on the daily? I don't, right? There's no supply at all-time highs, so there's not going to be any actionable supply up here. We can see that there was supply down here, but price is already through it, so it doesn't matter. And there's demand way down here, but that's at 508. We're at 523. We're not moving 15 points to the downside today. I just don't see that happening. So that demand zone, it's valid. I just don't see price getting to that demand zone. So we're good. We got these 4 dialed in daily zones of support resistance. Let's go into a 4-hour time frame and see if we have any good 4-hour supply and demand. So, I mean, I see some of this demand here on QQQ. We have this drop base rally, but I'm curious, was it a hit off previous demand? So I don't know until I get into my lower time frames, but I could see that we have some 4-hour demand. We have this drop base rally. Do I have any supply on a 4-hour? I do not. So let's go ahead and take that into a 1-hour time frame. We got this 1-hour time frame, drop base rally. Price comes back down, hits some of those unfilled orders, not quite, but it eventually has another little drop base rally. I'm pretty sure there was some lower time frame demand on the Qs that we hit in pre-market yesterday. So I'm pretty sure there was a basing candle through that impulse and move to the upside. And I'm pretty sure that's a hit. We'll see that when we get into a 30-minute time frame. So I'm going to remove that demand zone because I'm pretty sure that this is not fresh demand. I'm pretty sure there was a basing candle back here that we came down and hit. So we'll see that when we get into a 30. But we do have some supply up here on a 1-hour time frame. Here on QQQ. So there is going to be that 1-hour supply zone. We have this drop, base, drop. And so what do you notice about that supply zone? It lines up with that daily zone of resistance. So we have some 1-hour supply. We have that daily zone of resistance. That's going to be a great area to do what? To play puts, to get short off that 526 level here on the Qs for today. We are above that Litz, so as long as we hold that line in the sand zone as support, we could play the Qs long up into 526. But if we ever get to 526 today, I want to be playing puts off that level. So we got some 1-hour supply. Do we have any 1-hour demand? There is some demand down here on a 1-hour, but I'm pretty sure it was a hit off the previous day. So let's go look at the 30-minute time frame. So there is that little rally base rally, but it actually wasn't hit yesterday in pre-markets. Did we have a 15-minute that was hit? It didn't even come down and hit the 15. So that's actually an unhit zone here on the Q. So we got to do this. We got to go back into a 4-hour. We got to mark up both of those demand zones. So we're going to mark up that demand zone here on the Qs. We're on a 4-hour. Again, that's the drop base rally. Drill this back down into a 1-hour time frame. We have this 1-hour demand zone down here. There's your drop base rally. I just don't like how large that zone is. So I'm already going to remove that 1-hour zone, knowing that we have some 30-minute demand. But there's your 1-hour drop base rally. Then we have this little drop base rally on the 4-hour. But we have some 1-hour that sits inside of the 4-hour because we have this initial drop base rally. Here's another little basing candle. And then we really start to impulse to the upside. So we do still have some of this unhit 4-hour and 1-hour demand sitting right below. Then let's go finish this up on a 30-minute time frame. There's your 30-minute basing candle from Friday session. You see how tight that zone is? It's a really tight 30-minute zone. If I can draw the damn thing up correctly, it'd be good. So we got that 30-minute demand zone that's sitting down at that lower zone of support. We have that 4-hour demand. We have some 1-hour demand. And any other little demand block that was created has already been hit through current price. So there's a couple different zones of demand down below here on the Qs. But that's still down around 514. All of that demand's down to like 514, 515. We're sitting close to 524. So we still got a lot of work to do to the downside before we even get close to some of that demand. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it because we're probably not getting there today. So let's go ahead and build the plans here on QQQ. We already know we have that LITS. That's our line in the sand zone. That's our make or break. That's 521.49 to 522.55. That is a key make or break zone for today. So let's build our two plans off of it. If price opens above the zone, if we pull back into that zone, and if we hold that zone as support today, we are getting long and playing calls. Where to? 526. All right? 526. That's it. In off that 522 zone, out at that 526 zone. If price falls below that zone with force and we come back up into it and we stay below it as resistance, we will get short and play puts off that 522 zone down to that 517 zone. All right? That's your second plan for the day. Third and final plan, and this is an A+++ trade. It's if the Qs get up to that 526 zone, also up into some of that hourly supply that we have. Because we have some hourly supply in that daily zone of resistance right at 526. So if we see the Qs run up to 526 and we start to drop off that zone, I want to play puts back down to 522. And that would be the trade where I would look to get short and again play those puts on down. So that's the Qs. So you got the SPY, you got the Qs. You guys are dialed in for today's sesh. Got our A+ trade to the short side on the Qs, up around 526. And we have our A+ trade on the SPY, getting shorts up around 594.60. 594.60 is the A+ area to get short here on the SPY. And then we have our lines in the sand on the SPY, the LITS, the make or break. You even have your QQQ LITS for today. That's your make or break. So we are all set, ready to rock. DraftKings, that's next on the list. Let's go look at DKNG. DraftKings. Are we looking for a day trade or a swing trade on DKNG? Swing trade on DKNG. Let's dive into it. So swing trade, we're looking at a monthly, weekly, daily time frame. So we're just doing some basic supply demand analysis on a monthly into a weekly. And then we'll start to look at some other TA. So support resistance, trend lines, other confluences. But we have some demand sitting down here on the monthly chart, DKNG. Got that drop-based rally formation. Price already comes down and hits about 10% of some of this monthly demand. And then price pops up. Price comes back down pretty close, hitting some of that monthly demand. Price pops up. So that's going to be your closest level of monthly demand. Where is your closest level of supply? I would say we would be looking at this zone, this region here, because we had this nice little rally-based drop. But that was all a hit off that previous monthly zone back here. So price ran through it, but still didn't close above it. That was your monthly zone of supply that was sitting way back here. And so price has already hit some of that monthly supply quite a few times. And you got monthly demand down below. Anything else that stands out to us on DraftKings? Nothing really else on a monthly that just stands out at first glance. Let's go ahead and drill this down to a weekly time frame. There's your weekly demand zone that sits inside of your monthly demand zone. And that level has yet to get hit. You see that weekly is nice and tight. And that weekly demand zone lines up inside of the monthly demand zone. So, yeah, monthly demand. Go drill it down. Look at a weekly. We got our weekly. Cool. What about some weekly supply? Do we have any weekly supply? I mean, yeah, there was weekly supply up here, but price already ripped through that entire region to the upside. So I wouldn't trust it to get short. So we got some, again, monthly, weekly demand down below. Any zone of supply nearby? Nah, not really. Let's go finish this off on a daily, and let's see if we have anything that stands out on a daily. We got any daily demand down here? There is. But the weekly zone's already nice and tight. 2580 to 2680. That's the size of the weekly demand zone. So I already know that's going to be a nice area to get long on DraftKings if we ever get down around 26 bucks. Little gap down yesterday, hit some of that daily demand. Yesterday popped up a little bit. Right now we are flat in pre-market. So pre-market, we're sitting at 33.78. We closed at 33.73 yesterday. So it looks like we'll probably have a flat open. There's a gap sitting right above current price. So let's go ahead and mark up this daily gap here. Again, what we're doing is just doing all of our analysis across every time frame. And then when we're done, we start to look at what we have and start to make decisions. Like, do we have a reason to get long? Do we have a reason to get short? If not, where do we have a reason to start looking to take a trade? And so right now we're not looking to take a trade. We're just doing our analysis to see where we would want to take a trade in the first place. So we got the gap to the upside here on DraftKings. We've already come down and hit that daily demand. Any other demand in this region, not until we get down to that weekly, monthly zone. So, I mean, there's a lot of room to come down. We're at 33 bucks. I don't see a reason that I would want to get long until we get to 26. That's just me. Getting short, the only reason I would get short on DraftKings is if we came up, filled that daily gap, and we were to hit this for a day trade, where it's like, all right, cool, we're going to get in for the gap fill short for a day trade. The thing drops hard, and then we can hold some of that day trade as a swing trade. That's how I would look to take advantage of that setup on DraftKings. And then, hey, maybe play it down into that $26 level where I would want to get ideally long. But other than that, looking at the monthly, weekly, daily, I don't really see anything else we can do. Like, there's no significant areas of support to where it's like, hey, I would look to get long off some of these significant levels of support. I mean, there's one level down here. And I mean, it's a decent little zone of daily support resistance. It's between like 31.97 to 32.59. And we can see that we've respected this level several times. Resistance, support, resistance, a lot of support. So, I mean, that's going to be a pretty close level of support here on DraftKings. Again, that's 31.97 to 32.59. But do we have anything else nearby? I don't really see anything else that's sitting in that region, in that vicinity. So you got the gap to the upside. You got that daily zone of support. And then we got some of that monthly, weekly demand on DraftKings. So here's a couple of different types of plans on DraftKings. Let's look for the gap fill short. So we can look for the gap fill short to get started. Even for a swing trade, we get in for the gap fill short, but we're positioned for the swing trade. If we get below that daily zone of support and stay below it as resistance, I would get short down into some of that monthly, weekly demand on DraftKings. But if for any reason we start to set up long off that lower zone of support and we just see an A+ trade setting up off that zone and we can justify a good setup and a good trade, I would entertain a trade off that daily zone, but we would have to see what we do when we get there. Right? What do? Do we see a snapback higher low push forming with other confluence? I mean, if so, that would be a really good setup. We'd have to see what price does when we get to that lower zone to see if we even have a reason to get long in the first place. But if we get below the zone, hold below that zone, I would then look to play some puts. If we come up and fill the gap, I would look to start getting some puts for the gap fill rejection and see if that setup could possibly bleed into a nice little short-term swing trade. That's what we got on the good old DraftKings. BBAI, Big Bear AI. What do we got on BBAI? Looking at a day trade or a swing trade on BBAI? Swing. All right, cool. Let's go start on a monthly time frame. We do monthly, weekly, daily analysis for swing trades. We're looking at monthly, weekly supply and demand. Then we're going to get to the daily, where we find some daily zones of support resistance, and then any other confluence that we have. BBAI, we got to look at it this way. Is BBAI a stock where smart money, banks, institutions are trading? Yeah, it's a $4 stock. Probably not. So if we're starting to find some supply demand, just think about it that way. If you don't have smart money, big money coming in and buying large amounts of shares on BBAI, are there really going to be unfilled orders left over at these supplier demand zones? Just think about it that way. Probably not. But we still got to go through and find the key areas. Like, what do we have here? We do have this nice little drop-based rally formation here on BBAI. So let's go ahead and mark up the little drop-based rally formation that we have here. So that's going to give us some monthly demand. We even have a breakaway on that monthly candle. You see how we gapped up? We have this little breakaway gap. We gapped up and pulsed. So there's going to be some demand. That's down at $1.50. That's at $1.50 on the monthly. If we're looking at like supply, there's no supply zones on BBI as monthly. I mean, you do have this little rally-based drop, but we're going to go mark this up on a lower time frame. So that's what you got clear on a monthly. Let's go ahead and flip this down into a weekly time frame. And oh my gosh, this is an ugly chart. Not going to lie. BBAI is a very ugly chart. You got some supply sitting up here. There is your rally base drop formation on BBAI. That's up around $9. Was that a previous hit? Yes, it was. Look at that. Supply came in back here. right? We have this nice little rally base drop formation. This is not fresh supply. This is a hit off all of that previous weekly supplies. That's one big hit, one big reaction. Any other good zones of supply? No. Any other good zones of demand? No. This chart is not looking all that great. Then we go into a daily time frame. I don't like it. I'm just going to say I don't like what I see on BBAI. There's just not a lot that really stands out. I mean, you're grinding this daily uptrend. I mean, that's clear that we're just grinding this daily uptrend. You got that little daily supply zone sitting right there between 472 to 481. You got a little bit of that daily supply. I mean, we have this little rally-based drop formation right there. So there's going to be some resistance overhead. We're grinding this daily uptrend on BBAI. This is like the simplest way that you could look to trade this. It literally is just trading with the trends. That's it. Like trading with the trend. So recognizing we have an uptrend. When it pulls back to the trend line, get long for the next leg up. Let it pull back into the trend line. As long as it holds the trend line, get long for the next leg up. So if you were just to trade long off the trend line, your entries would probably be like 390. You'd put stops at 370. So you got about 20 cents of risk. And how much can you get to the upside? Well, I would put you up at supply would be a good target. So that's 470. So you could probably get about 80 cents of reward to the upside. So 80 cents a share. And you could safely risk 20 to 30 cents at most. So what can you get? Probably a 4-to-1 risk reward out of BBAI. But that's all you realistically have. All you're doing is trading off the uptrend. Now, could you throw some fib retracements in here? Yeah. Let's go fib retracement from this swing low up to this swing high. We pulled back to the 618 retracement. We saw the next leg up. Let's go ahead and mark up that leg from swing low to swing high. We are pulling back to the 618 retracement level. What could we see the next leg up? So we have this impulsive move to the upside. Nice retracement. That move to the upside. Nice retracement. This move to the upside, we're sitting off that retracement level and the trend line. So you do have some confluence on BBAI. You're holding above that fib retracement level and you're still holding the uptrend. As long as we hold the uptrend, as long as we hold that fib level, you're good to play this long with about 20 cents of risk and you grab about 80 cents of reward to the upside on BBAI. It's okay. You literally just have those two things that you see. It's nice fib retracements. That was a nice retracement level. From that leg, nice retracement. From this leg that we're currently sitting on right now, you're sitting at that retracement level. So I would say, again, yeah, long. 390 long, play it up to like 470, give it 20 cents of risk. It's a decent little trade there on BBAI. But here's the to the flip side. If you fall below that trend line and retest it as resistance, I would be all over puts for the reversal on BBAI. I'd just be all over puts on this. If we fall below the trend line, back test it as resistance, you've gone from the bullish side of the trend line to the bearish side of the trend line. That's when you see these types of stocks start to fall and fade pretty fast. So that would be a short plan if we crack the uptrend. All right, what else you got? Only 1.4 thousand likes? Oh, you guys are killing me. What's up? What's up with that? Do I show my winnings? Yes, I stream all of my trades live to my group. So like yesterday, I had a losing day yesterday. So anytime I lose, I show it. When I win, I show it. All my trades are done. For the most part, inside of our coaching sessions. So yeah. So that's what we got for the day. So we're dialed in on Spy the Qs. We had a chance to look at DraftKings. We got some time on that. BBAI looks decent. Again, doesn't look spectacular, but it looks decent. I think, the opportunities could be all over the Spy and the Qs. I'm really digging the Qs short at 526 today. I like it a lot. So that's going to be my number one setup for the day. Is going to be QQQ for the shorts up around 5, 1, 8, 6.